हरि ओम। ओम श्री गणेशाय नमः। ओम श्री हिरण्यगर्भाय नमः। ओम श्री महाविष्णवे नमः। ओम श्री महादेवाय नमः। ओम श्री महादुर्गायै नमः। ओम श्री राम रामाय नमः। ओम श्री सद्गुरवे नमः। ओम समस्त जन कल्याणे निरतं करुणामयम् नमामि चिन्मयं देवं सद्गुरुं ब्रह्मविद्वरम् शङ्करं शङ्कराचार्यं केशवं बादरायणं सूत्रभाष्यकृतौ वन्दे भगवन्तौ पुनः पुनः। श्रुतिस्मृतिपुराणानाम् आलयं करुणालयं नमामि भगवत्पादशङ्करं लोकशङ्करम्। सदाशिवसमारम्भां शङ्कराचार्यमध्यमाम् अस्मदाचार्यपर्यन्तां वन्दे गुरुपरम्पराम्। ईश्वरो गुरुरात्मेति मूर्तिभेदविभागिने व्योमवद्व्याप्तदेहाय दक्षिणामूर्तये नमः। शङ्करं परमानन्दं ब्रह्मनिष्ठं यतीश्वरं भाष्यभ्रान्तिहरं वन्दे शुद्धज्ञानैकबोधकम्। ओम नमः शिवाय। 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 नमः पार्वती पतये। हर हर महादेव। हरि ओम। हरि ओम। We'll begin with the Shanti mantra. Om आप्यायन्तु ममाङ्गानि वाक् प्राणश्चक्षुश्रोत्रमथो बलमिन्द्रियाणि च सर्वाणि सर्वं ब्रह्मोपनिषदम् माहं ब्रह्म निराकुर्याम् मा ब्रह्म निराकरोत् अनिराकरणमस्त्वनिराकरणं मे अस्तु तदात्मनि निरतेय उपनिषत्सु धर्माः ते मयि सन्तु ते मयि सन्तु। ओम शांति शांति शांति। हरि ओम। We shall chant from the first mantra of the 22nd section. यदा वै सुखं लभते अथ करोति ना सुखं लब्ध्वा करोति Sukhameva labdhva karoti. Sukham tveva vijidnyasitavyamiti. Sukham bhagavo vijidnyasa iti. So the teacher, Sanat Kumarji, reveals this highest truth, the supreme reality, to Naradji. First, he revealed that prana, which is like a hub, which controls and sustains the whole world. So one should recognize that prana, which is also expressing within this body as our own inner self, the Pratyekatma. But that knowing that prana alone is not supreme, one should know the reality behind this prana also. What is the ultimate satyam that has to be recognized and realized? So the teacher tells Naradji that one who knows that satya alone, ativadati, becomes the ativadi, becomes enlightened and all-knowing. So one has to gain that vijnana of this satyam, gain direct realization of satyam, and that is possible when we do mananam. So when we do mananam, that is contemplation on the various mahavakyas of the Upanishads, then we come to realize our own self as Brahma. But to contemplate, we need Shraddha. Without Shraddha, we cannot contemplate. That astikya buddhi we should have in ourselves, in the Shastra, in the teacher, in the Supreme Brahma. And Shraddha we can cultivate when we serve our teacher properly with total humility and devotion. That is called Nishtha. And we will be able to serve the teacher and understand his greatness when our mind becomes pure and single-pointed, when we put forth effort to purify our mind by doing all the necessary sadhanas. And we will put forth effort to purify our mind and control our senses when we know that we will gain happiness. Because happiness alone drives all of us into various activities, whether they are worldly activities or they are spiritual activities. They are driven by that hope that we will gain happiness. When we strive in this world to gain happiness, we don't get that supreme happiness in this world. And whatever little pleasures we get is accompanied with pain and sorrow. But when we come to understand that there is that happiness which is eternal, which doesn't come to an end, and which is our own nature of our own supreme self, then we will strive on this spiritual path. So that is what the teacher tells in this 22nd section. that yada vai sukham labhate atha karoti. When we gain that sukha, means when we come to understand that we will get that eternal sukha, eternal happiness, then we will put forth effort to control our senses, make our mind pure and single pointed, because this is required to realize that supreme self. Vedanta tells about the qualifications required for a student, like Vivek, Vairagya, Shamadamadish, Shak, Sampatti, Mumukshutvam. All these qualifications are nothing but qualifications of our mind. It doesn't depend on on our gender. The qualification required to gain enlightenment doesn't depend on gender, doesn't depend on age, doesn't depend on nationality, doesn't depend on the caste or varna, education or wealth. It depends on the inner qualities of our antakkarana. And we will strive to purify our antakkarana when we are able to appreciate this supreme happiness. So yada vai sukham labhate atha karoti. Na asukham labdva karoti. If we feel we will not get this happiness, we will not be inspired to do anything. There will not be any motivation. Sukham eva labdva karoti. One does only when one gains that sukha. But one has to understand this sukha. Sukham tveva vijitnyasitavyamiti. One should recognize and understand this sukha properly. It's a very strange thing that all beings strive to gain sukha only. And so many human beings are there on this earth. All of them are striving to gain sukha, happiness. But the way they understand this happiness, their definition of happiness, and where they think they will acquire this happiness varies from person to person. Some think that by acquiring a lot of wealth we will be happy, so they put forth effort to become more and more rich. Then there are those who think one can become happy by becoming famous in this world, so they put forth effort in that direction. Then there are those who think we can become happy when we have all powers, the political powers and other powers. So they strive to gain those things. And even when we see that people from all walks of life, they gain some happiness, but they are also sorrowful. We find people unhappy in all walks of life. We can see a beggar unhappy, we can see a middle class person unhappy, we see educated person unhappy, we see very famous people unhappy. Even a king is unhappy. So it is very important to understand exactly what is this happiness and where can we attain it. And that is what the teacher says that you should find out. Otherwise, you will be just wasting your time perceiving something which is really not happiness. And that is what happens with most of the people in this world. that even after struggling throughout our life, we remain unhappy, we remain with a sense of incompleteness, and we die with that feeling of incompleteness, sorrow, pain, to be born again and to continue with our struggle again. So we have to understand what is this sukha. So Naradji then requested his teacher that please teach me this sukha. Sukham bhagavo vijidnyasa iti. And now in this 23rd section, first mantra, the teacher reveals what is that sukha. So let us chant. Yo vai bhuma tat sukham nalpe sukham asti भूमैव सुखं भूमा त्वेव विजिज्ञासितव्य इति भूमानं भगवो विजिज्ञास इति. Once more. यो वै भूमा तत्सुखं नाल्पे सुखमस्ति भूमैव सुखं भूमा त्वेव विजिज्ञासितव्य इति भूमानं भगवो विजिज्ञास इति. The teacher says, most beautiful. The teacher says, Yo vai bhuma tat sukham. He says that which is bhuma, that alone is sukha. A most fascinating, wonderful thing is revealed here. That which is bhuma, that alone is sukha. And what is bhuma? Bhuma means that which is infinite. More about this the teacher will reveal in the following mantras. But the meaning of this word bhuma means that which is infinite, that which is not limited by anything. So yo vai bhuma tat sukham na alpe sukham asti. There is no sukha, there is no happiness in that which is finite. Bhuma eva sukham. The infinite alone is sukha, happiness. Therefore, bhumatveva vijitnyasitavyeti. Therefore, one should understand this bhuma, this infinite, which is sukha. One has to recognize it. Bhumanam bhagavo vijitnyasa iti. Then Naradji requests the teacher to reveal this bhuma to him. So let us read Adi Shankaracharya's bhashya on this mantra and let us contemplate to understand it properly. So Shankaracharya writes, Ki yo vai bhuma mahan niratishyam bhavvihiti paryayaha tat sukham. Shankaracharya says that which is bhuma, and what is the meaning of bhuma? Mahat, that which is great. Then another word he uses, nir atishayam, that which is the greatest, means there is nothing greater than that. Nir atishayam. There is nothing greater than bhuma. Bahu, it is vast. Paryayaya tat sukham. This is the meaning of the words bhuma. So infinite. See, we we try to acquire things of this world, wealth and other material objects. But what are they? They are all limited, they are all finite. And such finite objects cannot give us this happiness. We try to acquire some position in this world. We try to become something. We try to become rich. We try to become famous. We try to become popular. We try to become powerful. But all these achievements are also temporary. They are also limited in time. We try to spread out in this world our fame. But whatever we do, it's all limited. There are these three types of limitations which we experience in the objects and in the achievements of this world. All things are limited by objects, by space, and in time. Any object, anything you take, like this pot, it is limited by other objects. Means this pot is not any other object. This pot is not a marker. This presence of this marker limit this pot. This pot is not the tree. This pot is not the table. This pot is not the sun and the moon. So the presence of other objects limit this particular object. So acquiring this pot, one cannot acquire everything. There will always be many things which we will feel that I should acquire. And that is what happens when we try to acquire things of this world. However much you acquire, do a lot of shopping, collect a lot of items, but there will always be many things which we don't have. And those things which we don't have start giving us sorrow, creating that feeling of inferiority, creating desires in our mind to acquire them. The sense of incompleteness will be there. But there is no end to it. We keep on acquiring things, but the more and more we accumulate, the more and more we understand that I don't have many things. So the objects of this world are limited by objects. Object-wise limitations are there. Then there is limitation in space. Again, to take that example, this pot is present here, but it is not elsewhere. It is confined in space. There is a lot of space around where this pot is not there. So it is limited in space. Also, it is limited in time. It is born at one time and it will get destroyed in another time. So it is limited in time. So even if we acquire all these objects of this world, we will feel a sense of incompleteness. Again, if we look at ourselves, If we look at our own existence as per our own as per our own understanding, we understand ourselves to be this body. We understand ourselves to be born at a particular time, and we understand that we will die. We also understand the things which we have acquired within, the education, the talents, the various qualities which are acquired after a lot of struggle. People go for years together in schools and colleges to gain that education, to acquire skills, to acquire education. So all this make up my own personality. But that I am also limited. I am also limited by objects, by space and time. I am not everyone. However much I may possess myself, but there are other beings and other people in this world who create the sense of limitation in me, in my presence. People sometimes feel very great in their own homes, but when they go out, when they meet other people, when they see other great people or powerful people, they many times they feel insignificant, they feel less, they feel inferior because they feel that they don't have what the other person has got. They are limited. So there is a sense of limitation which I feel in my own being. And there is also, when I experience this world, I experience the world, it creates a triputi, a triad. So I look at this world and become the knower of this world. So I am there as a knower of this world. I also experience this world, so I am the experiencer. I also perform actions in this world, so I am the doer. So I experience myself as the knower, doer, and the experiencer. So when I experience myself, let us say as a knower, then there is something which I know. So this world is there, the objects of this world are there which are known, and the knowledge is there. So knower, knowledge, and known. This is called triputi or triad. This triad is also limitation. They're different. I am different, knowledge is different, known is different. So where there is difference, where things are different, they are limited by each other. And where there is limitation, there is sorrow, there is pain. So all things in this world are limited. And when we look at ourselves as we know ourselves, we experience ourselves as limited. And as long as this limitation is there, within these limitations, there is no happiness. We might feel little excitement, little joy, little happiness, but they are all temporary. They come to an end, leading to sorrow and pain. So tataha arvat satishayatvat alpam. Anything other than this infinity is limited only. And ataha tasmin alpe sukham na asti. And in that which is limited, there is no sukha. There is no lasting happiness. Why there is no happiness in that which is limited? Shankaracharya ji writes, कि अल्पस्य अधिक तृष्णा हेतुत्वात् तृष्णा च दुःख बीजम, कि that which is alpa, that which is limited, gives rise to trishna, gives rise to a thirst to acquire them, acquire something more, gives rise to a desire to acquire. See, we are trying to fill a chasm, fill a gap which is there within. We experience that limitation. So I feel that if I fill my life with things, with experiences, with achievements, maybe I will become complete. Maybe I will become infinite. But this doesn't happen. People have filled their lives with so many things, but they go unhappy, they go unfulfilled. That the story of Alexander the great conqueror. He went to the length and breadth of this world, conquering everything and everyone, and accumulating great power and wealth. But when he was on his deathbed, when he was about to die, no amount of wealth could save him. No amount of people around him could save him. He told them that when I die, keep my hands outside that coffin so that people will know that this great emperor who was so powerful and so wealthy, he is going without anything, empty-handed, unfulfilled. And that is what this whole thing is. There is no sukha in that which is limited. There is no infinite sukha. There is no eternal sukha in that which is limited. Because the sense of limitation creates desire. This desire is a very interesting phenomenon. When a person feels that he is complete, there is a deep sense of satisfaction. When there is a deep sense of contentment, then there is no desire arises. In Bhagavad Gita, Bhagavan defines or he reveals the characteristics of an enlightened person in the second chapter, wherein he says, कि प्रजहाति यदा कामान सर्वान् पार्थमनोगतान् आत्मन्नेवात्मना तुष्टः स्थितः प्रज्ञस्तदोच्यते. What is the lakshana? What is the characteristic of a sthita prajna? An enlightened person. An enlightened person is one in whose antakarana there are no desires. Absolutely zero desires are there. No desires. Prajahati yada kaman sarvan partha manogatam. There are no desires. That is one aspect of it. But at the same time, Atmannevatmana tushtaha. Why there are no desires? Because he is completely satisfied and content in his own self. His own self, which is supreme, eternal happiness. He has attained it and is totally fulfilled. One who has attained infinity, you cannot add anything to that infinity to make it more. You cannot remove anything from that infinity to make it less. Even if you remove infinity from infinity, infinity alone will remain. Even if you add infinity to infinity, infinity alone will remain. But that which is limited, if you remove something, it will become less. If you add something, it will become more. But however much you add, it will not become infinity. However big hall you build, it will not be infinite. So, whatever we try to acquire, it is all finite only. And that which is finite gives rise to this desire in us to acquire more, to acquire something greater, to acquire something more powerful. And this goes on in this world. This itself is called samsara. In this world, if you just observe this world, you will find that everyone is really unhappy only. Even those who think they are happy, they are really speaking unhappy. Because everything is temporary, everything is limited. And in this limited temporary world, there is no real happiness. Anityam asukam imam lokam. This world, Bhagavan says in the 9th chapter, it is anityam asukam imam lokam. It is anitya, it is temporary. And asukam doesn't have sukha. So, why that which is limited gives us sorrow? Because it creates trishna, that thirst, the desire. And trishna cha dukkha bijam, and that which is that which gives rise to trishna, a thirst, a desire, is sorrow only. Is dukkha, is the very root of sorrow. Nahi dukkha bijam sukham drishtam juradi loke, and that which is the very seed of dukkha is not seen as giving happiness. In this world, we don't see sorrow, pain, trouble, suffering, giving joy. Tasmad yuktam nalpe sukham asti. Therefore, it is proper, which is indicated here, that in swalpa, in that which is alpa, that which is limited, there is no sukha. Ato bhuma eva sukham. Therefore, that which is infinite, in that infinity alone, that is sukha. So one has to understand this infinity and acquire infinity. See, people try to acquire more and more. That is our tendency. We want to acquire more. If I get some pleasure, I try to gain some more pleasures. That is our limited thinking. If I get some joy out of some food which I eat, then I try to eat more. If I get some joy from wealth, I try to acquire more wealth. If I get some joy from the little other possessions which I have, I try to acquire more. So I think by acquiring more and more and more, I can become more, gain that infinite happiness. As I said, adding more cannot make me eternally happy. What is required is to attain that infinity. Infinity is not totality of little thing. Infinity is not total. Infinity is something totally different, most amazing. See, when we look at this space, space is unlimited by space. Space, space is infinite with respect to space only. Though space is also born when the world is created, the space is born and the world get dissolved, the space will also come to an end, it will also get dissolved. But otherwise, space-wise is infinite. And to comprehend this infinite space itself is so very difficult. Our buddhi cannot comprehend it. Science is also trying to understand how large is this universe. But however much they see beyond with the highly advanced telescopes also, they come to know that there is still more to be seen. Nowadays they have this very advanced James Webb telescope, which has got the capacity to see much further. And the more further we see, the more in the past we see. But even after seeing so much in the past and so much out there, still the space is so very vast and so infinite. So that space is not just addition of little space. It is something totally different. So what is infinity? Infinity is that where there is no limitations of any kind. There is no limitations of space, time and object. Means infinity is that which is present in all the objects. So one object doesn't limit the other object because in that other object also that infinity is present. The infinity is present in every objects of this world. Then it is not an object-wise limited. The infinity should be present in all space. And the infinity should be present in all time. It is not something which is born at one time and dies at another time. Also, that infinity is that in which the division of this triad is not there. The knower, knowing and known. The knower, knowledge and known. This division is not there. So only by acquiring that infinity, one will become free of all sorrow, all suffering, because that infinity is eternal happiness. When the scriptures talk about that Brahma is Satyam, Jnanam, Anantam. That Anantam is also called Anandam. Anantam and Anandam is same. So Ato Bhuma Eva Sukham. That Bhuma alone is Sukha. Trishnadi Dukkha Bijatva Asambhavat Bhumnaha. Because there is no seed of desire, thirst in that Bhuma, in that infinity. See, we have seen in Bhagavad Gita also, Bhagavan talks about three types of happiness with respect to the three gunas, the sattvic happiness, the rajasic happiness, and the tamasic happiness. The unenlightened beings of this world, they only experience these three types of happiness. Briefly, we will see that tamasic happiness is experienced when our mind becomes dull. See, whatever happiness one experiences in this world is the quality of the mind only, is the quality of the kshetra. In the 13th chapter, Bhagavan calls or enumerates the kshetra. He says, कि इच्छा द्वेष सुखम दुखम संघातश् चेतना धृतिः एतत् क्षेत्रं समासेन सविकारम उदाहृतम्. That is ichha, this desire which arises is also part of this mind. Even hatred is part of the mind. And sukham dukkham, happiness and sorrow is also quality of the mind only. So when the mind has got this happy thought, then we feel I am happy because I have identified with the mind. I have identified with the mind. So when the mind has got happy thought, I feel I am happy. Just like when we go to see a cinema, we identify with those characters in the movie. So when the person in the movie, the character becomes happy, we also become happy. So if somebody asks you, why are you so happy? No, that fellow is so happy. But he is happy. But why are you happy? I am happy because I identify with that person. When I see something which is very tragic in the movie, I also become sad. I start weeping, crying. So why am I crying? Because that person is suffering there. So I identify with that person. So his sorrow becomes my sorrow. In the same way, this mind, our own mind, is like a character in this world. It is part of the world. But we have identified with the mind in such a way, when the mind is happy, I feel I am happy. And when the mind is sad, I feel I am sad. So this mind goes through these three types of happiness: tamasic, rajasic, and sattvic. When the mind becomes dull, incapable of comprehending things around, that dullness comes due to laziness, due to intoxication, due to sleep, the mind becomes dull. And when the mind becomes dull, it doesn't comprehend, it doesn't, that sorrowful thought also doesn't arise in the mind. It doesn't understand sorrow as well as joy also. See, there are people who have so much of sorrow, poverty in their homes, and some trouble. The wife, the children, they are having their own problems. So this person is very, very upset, sorrowful. Then he goes and drinks some intoxicant, some alcohol. And when he drinks, his mind becomes dull. And when his mind becomes dull, his mind becomes incapable of understanding the situation around. Wife is unhappy, it doesn't matter. Keep a penda. What does it matter? Children are suffering, who cares? You are not getting a proper job, what does it matter? The mind is incapable of comprehending things around. The mind, intellect becomes dull. And when it becomes dull, it doesn't experience those sorrows. And that itself we think is joy. That is called tamasic sukha. Bhagavan writes about it in this 18th chapter of Gita. कि यद अग्रे अनुबंधे च सुखम मोहनम आत्मनः निद्रा आलस्य प्रमादोत्थम तत्तामसम उदारतम. That sukha which arises due to sleepiness, due to laziness, due to forgetfulness, it makes a person more and more dull, more and more deluded, full of delusion in the beginning also, in the end also. Such sukha is called tamasic sukha, dullness. Then there is what is called rajasic sukha, which comes when one interacts with the objects of this world. When the senses indulge in the sense pleasures, when through the contact with the objects of this world, one gains that pleasure. So Vishayendriya Sanyogat Yattadagre Amrutopamam. And when one contacts through eating, drinking, indulging in various types of other pleasures, acquiring things, getting that stimuli, stimulating our senses, stimulating our mind through various types of excitements of this world, going for a party, interacting with people. That type of interaction gives rise to joy in the beginning, some sort of pleasure, but pariname vishamiva. But when it comes to an end, it leaves a deep sense of unfulfillment, sorrow, pain. And that is what we see in this world also. People, when they are in their prime, they run around acquiring wealth, position, name, fame, all sorts of stimuli from the world. But it doesn't last. Suddenly it goes away. and one feels deep sense of incompleteness. Those popular people, powerful people, the field of politics or in the field of this other entertainment and all. Once they lose their popularity and all, they become totally frustrated and so very depressed. Because they can feel a great sense of incompleteness. That feeling of incompleteness becomes very, very vivid. Because all the time they were surrounded by people, having a lot of followers on their Twitter and all those accounts. But then suddenly those followers also reduces or popularity goes away. Our talents also go away. Our that youthfulness and beauty and all also goes. So one feels complete sense of incompleteness, unfulfillment. And with that only they die. Then there are those who try to acquire sattvic happiness, which comes by purifying our mind, by making the mind single pointed, by acquiring certain good habits and good values in life, by developing that faith and proper shraddha. Bhagwan writes कि अभ्यासात रमते यत्र दुःखांतंच निगच्छति, which comes through abhyas also by regularly practicing something positive, spiritual. Yat tad agre vishamiva, in the beginning when we try to acquire this sattvic joy, in the beginning it seems very difficult, it seems like poison only. But once the mind becomes more and more steady and pure, we experience great joy, like ambrosia. So pariname amrutopamam tat sukham satvikam proktam atma buddhi prasadajam. It comes when our buddhi also becomes totally pure, and then this experience of joy is felt within. But this also depends on the quality of the mind only. So the Rajasic, Tamasic, Rajasic and Sattvic Sukha depends on the quality of the mind, which are temporary, which can change. A Sattvic person can become Tamasic or Rajasic. A Rajasic can become Sattvic. It fluctuates. So they are also temporary. That is not the ultimate joy. Bhagwan says in the 6th chapter कि सुखम आत्यंतिकम यत्तद् बुद्धिग्राह्यम अतीन्द्रियम वेत्ति यत्र न चैवायम स्थितश्चलति तत्वतः. That there is one more happiness which doesn't belong to this mind, which doesn't depend on the condition of the mind, which doesn't depend on the sattvic, rajasic, tamasic conditions of the mind. That joy transcends the mind. Sukham atyantikam, which is infinite sukha, which transcends the mind, which is the very nature of that supreme self, which is infinite. And having attained that sukha, one becomes steady, one becomes a sthita prajna. So that which is infinite, that which is bhuma, alone is sukha. Other than that, everything is sorrow and pain. Therefore, we should strive to attain that bhuma. understand that Bhuma and attain that Bhuma. Trishnadi dukkha bijatvat asambhavat bhumnaha. There is no seed of sorrow in that Bhuma. So what is this Bhuma? What is this infinity? And how is possible to attain infinity? At least limited things we can acquire. We can go collect items. We can go do shopping and collect lot of items. We can acquire something at the level of our mind also, some talents, some habits, some values, which comes in time. But that which is not limited by any objects, that which is not limited by space, that which is not limited by time, that which is not limited by any division, this triad of knower, knowledge, and known. How can one acquire it? What is it? What is this infinity? What is this Bhuma? That most fascinating Bhuma is revealed now in the next mantra, which we will see in our class on Wednesday. So till then, you take care, be happy, safe, peaceful, healthy, do your work, do your sadhana, and listen to the pravachan again. Contemplate, think about it, understand it. It's very, very fascinating. And that is what we should attain. And we will meet on Wednesday. Hari Om. Shri Ram Jaya Ram Jaya Jaya Ram. 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 Jaya Jaya Ram. Jaya Jaya Ram. Bole Siyavar Ramachandra Bhagwan ki Jai. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vasishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Hari Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Hari Om.